to introduce our speaker today. She has been such a right hand, left hand, right elbow, whatever has been needed to support our center at the highest level of consciousness. So it is my great joy to present to you our staff minister, but she's really more of a co-pastor with me. Please welcome Dr. Clancy Blakemore.
I got all warmed up with that music number. Somebody moving here might say, well, what's the climate in this part of the world? Difference between the weather and the climate. I grew up in the Midwest, and then the Midwest, they say, well, wait 15 minutes and the weather will change. In Visalia, we have more balance, but it's like hot or cool. Hot and cool. But what is a climate for wise choices? That's the spiritual and emotional climate, isn't it? It's not what we feel on our physical body as the perspiration that drips off our nose sometimes recently. My daughter and her husband live in San Diego. Their climate and their weather are pretty much the same. So the climate is sort of the tendency of the median, the averaging out of what is. So when you come to a place, people's homes have a climate. You may have walked into somebody's home and you say, oh, this just feels so comfortable. Or you may walk into somebody's home and have a little unease, like, yeah, there's some unfinished business hanging out here. The climate is just a little bit uneasy. When you come into this center, I trust that the tendency of our climate is one of openness, welcome, compassion, sensitivity, awareness, that we're each on our own path. And there are those days when we feel a little ornery or contrary sometime, and that's okay. We may feel some sadness. We may feel some upset about something. And this is a place where the climate is such that you can find a place to just be still and know that God is there. The God is the presence. God is present in the laughter and the tears. It's in the celebrations of life and shifts and changes. In the I would prefer different, and in the I really love this. All of that is part of their climate. And so our opportunity this morning is to look and see for ourselves, what climate are we creating in our life that allows us to see more clearly wise choices, wise possibilities, wise opportunities. And are we willing to be responsible for creating that, rather than, well, this is the way it's always been. And I acknowledge there are times that I would really rather have it different. I really would. But we're always choosing. We can't live a choiceless life. Well, I will not choose. Guess what? That's a choice. And then we get the result from that, I'm not going to choose. The founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, said, there's no mediator between God, the ultimate, and a person except Christ. We don't have to have anybody else. You don't really even need the ministers or the practitioners. Darn, we'd be out of a job. What he means by the Christ, he said, is the Christ is the truth about ourselves. It's the clear knowing. So, he reminds us, if we have to make a choice and feel we do not know which or what to choose, we must be still in our own consciousness, still in our own awareness, and know that the Spirit within us knows which one of these ways is right and most constructive. And it will guide us. Knows which way is right, most constructive, and is guiding us. What an assurance. I don't know about you, but I've been at that crossroads and said, no. Was it Yogi Berra that said, take one, take the other one? I don't know. We may not be like the Holocaust survivor who at 17 from Poland was put in a concentration camp in Auschwitz. His name was Ernst Lustig, Lustig, L-U-S-T-I-G, Lustig. He was separated from his family. He was stripped of all his belongings. He was robbed, the author of the story said, of his essence, and he was denied his humanity. Everything was done to say, you do not exist, you are worth nothing. About a year later, that camp was liberated, and ultimately he immigrated to the United States, got educated, and the author of the story I was reading said he was on the faculty of American University at that time, and that he was always this joy-filled man. Always had a smile, always had a story, something uplifting. And one day, the author asked him about it, and so he shared his story. And he said, you know, my name means humor or laughter. Lustig. He said, it's how I got through that horrible ordeal. With humor and laughter from that joy placed within him, which could not be destroyed. Regardless of the appearance, regardless of the weather around him in that camp, he claimed his climate for life. Well, what does that have to do with you and me today? Clearly, we live in the freest country in the world. We have blessings beyond count. And yet, there may be places in our lives where it appears as though we are bound by something, by circumstances that we didn't think we chose, or circumstances we walked into and then said, oh, this isn't where I want to be. So we can re-choose. Constantly re-choosing our climate. So in the midst of stress overload, it's too much. There's too much going on, too much for me to do. There's not enough time, there's not enough money, there's not enough whatever. Our challenges, our choices are sometimes challenged. We're reminded that Jesus told the disciples when they were out in the boat and there was a big storm, you cast your nets on the other side. He wasn't talking about fishing, I don't think. He was saying, turn away from the storm and find the quiet. Find the quiet. Turn to it. I've, for years, carried around on my keychain a medallion. It was given to me in a workshop years ago. I would give credit if I could remember where I got it. When I was thinking about the climate in our life, I was reminded of this, and I wanted to share it with you. On one side of the medallion, it says, I resist that which I cannot change. The choice is mine. Feel bad, energy wasted. I accept that which I cannot change. The choice is mine. Feel good, energy focused on creative results. Creating our climate. When we open ourselves to that climate of possibility, then new creative ideas can appear. When I thought about getting caught up in the stuff, I was reminded that when I was in college, my first year at Michigan State, we won the football game to go to the Rose Bowl. And somebody said, let's go over to East Lansing and march down the street. And I don't know, 300 or 400 of us went over there, and nobody did anything bad. We came out on the street and marched for a couple of blocks and got bored and went home. The newspaper the next day told about the mob that stormed East Lansing after the football game. And I admit I was caught up in the enthusiasm. Now, was that a bad choice? Not necessarily, as long as everybody was just in joy and doing their great thing. If we look at the word climate as an acronym for a few minutes, the C in the climate could stand for calmness. To go to that quiet place. Quiet time, it said in prayer, go alone to your closet. Take 5, take 10, take 5 minutes. In some of my classes, I say, just count your breath until I tell you to pause. And we pause for about a minute. So they've got a 1 minute count of exhalations, and know you can take 1 minute to breathe. For me, 1 minute is 7 or 8 deep breaths. So if I want to take a 3-minute break to calm, or a 5-minute break to calm, I know how many breaths to count. But I'm too busy. Too busy for 1 minute? You can do 1 minute at a traffic signal. You might even be able to do more than that. The L in climate is for love. In Joshua, it said, be strong and of good courage. That means big heart. Be not afraid, for God with you wherever you go. God's with you, always. And it's our wisest choice to remember God love. Yes, but that person, God love here. When we're focused in God love, we can bless those people that are our opportunities for growth, our detractors. Well, it's never worked before and it's never going to work. We've never done it that way. Why do you want to change? Bless you. Am I the only one that encounters that occasionally? Okay. It said that love is the blessing. Just think of it as blessing to neutralize something that is negative. And the love center, being at our love center, allows us to deal with all kinds of things. Years ago, I had a small desk with a bulletin board above it, and I had many affirmation cards, like the little affirmation cards in our program this morning, stapled or pinned to that bulletin board. And when the phone would ring, before I answered it, I was working out of my home at that time, I would put my hand on the phone, take a deep breath, and glance up at the bulletin board and read an affirmation. So I read, the phone rang, put my hand on it, and I looked up, and it said, every voice I hear is the voice of God. Okay. Hello? And it was one of those phone calls that some of us ladies get. Could I be insulted? Could I be upset? No. There too is a voice of God. Mischoosing, misguided from my perspective, could not be offended. The I in climate might stand for intention. What is our intention that we're setting every morning when we get up? Is our intention to stay in the wholeness of life? Is our intention to stay in love and calmness? Is our intention to take the high road whenever we can possibly pause and engage our brain and our heart before we engage our mouth? Stop gossip. Don't repeat it. I've discovered that if I don't gossip, I don't have to apologize later on. What is our intention as we're walking this road? And the M in the climate can stand for mystery. For you, what is the place where you touch the mystery of spirit? For me, it's in the trees and water. There's something about it. I can be in great upset if I step outside or even look outside and see nature. There's a place in me that touches the nature, this mystery of spirit. It's all God. All God. And the A in the climate could stand for activity. We can do our prayer work. We do our prayer work. We do our meditations. And we know we get to take action to implement that which our good desire is leading us toward. What is our climate of our activity? Are we going like a hamster in the cage on the wheel? We had a hamster. My kids had a hamster. It went busy at night, round and round that wheel, and it would click, click, click. That's the way sometimes we get when we're just ruminating on something and not pausing to take the action. Our spiritual centers are filled with activity, various art, various forms of creativity, opportunities for you to learn, opportunities for you to come and be inspired, then the ways that touch you in heart, mind, and spirit and body. Filled with those opportunities. If you just stay home and read about them, then you only reap those seeds, the information. Part of our opportunity is to remember that in Psalms it reminds us, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, and know that that is really an affirmation. The expressions of love are accessible. Our calmness is acceptable. Our activity, our good, wise choices is acceptable now. And the T could stand for time. Are we taking time? And how are we using time? If I make this choice, how will I feel in time? Our made-up thing is time, you know. How will I feel in an hour? How will I feel when I wake up in the middle of the night if I make that choice? How will I feel in a year or 5 years? Some of you have heard our story that when Richard and I came back to California and were looking for a home, we had narrowed our choice in Three Rivers to 2 homes. The one we found was not even on the market, had been on and off the market for 2 years. We said, well, we didn't know how much it would cost because it wasn't on the market. Our realtor, after listening to us hem and haw, said, 5 years from now, which choice will you wish you had made? And we stopped our chattering and said this, 5 years from now. And every single day when we sit at our table and enjoy our home, we are grateful for that wise choice that came not from out here because the appearances and the circumstances didn't even give us an idea it was available. And she sold it to us because her maiden name was the same as ours. I mean, were we in charge of that one? No. Our choice was to find the qualities that we want. So in the climate, the E is empowering support. You know that there's empowering support in a place like this spiritual center. You have 2 ministers, not 1. You have spiritual practitioners who offer their love, their compassion, their prayer support. There are classes. There are so many ways you can be empowered. I do invite you to not only remember your inner guide about that support, but notice who you're networking with. There are lots of people in this community that you can network with and be supported by for all kinds of things. Don't ask the person who's pushing their cart on their street for relationship advice. You probably would want to hesitate, as Dr. Ernest Holmes said, to go about going to a psychic who might contact Uncle George for financial advice when Uncle George never made a dime in his life. Notice what your wise choices are about the people you talk to and you network with. So when you set your intention and your love and your calmness and you take your time and you do all of these things, going to that inner place for your wise choices in your spiritual work, remember it's your answers, not somebody else's. And again, Dr. Holmes said the criterion for any person as to what is right or wrong is not to be found in some other person's judgment. The criterion is, does the thing I wish to do express more life, more happiness, more peace to myself, and at the same time harm no one? If it does, it is right. It is not selfish. But if it is done at the expense of anyone, then in such degree we're making a wrong use of the spiritual law. Express more life, more happiness, more peace, and harm no one. That sounds like creating a climate for wise choices. Just notice, are the seeds you're planting those that you want to harvest? I'm going to ask you to take out that little affirmation card that was in your program, because that sums it all up. Let's read together. I am confident I am being guided to all that I need to know in this situation of choice. I'm not getting overwhelmed by what appears to be. I just keep going in the direction of my good desires. Partnering with my inner guidance, I am creating the climate for my wise choices. I am celebrating the results now. And so it is.